Something about Abel Mutua's success doesn't quite add up. Most actors spend years trying to get onto television because television offers visibility, credibility, and access to a mass audience. Yet Abel Mutua became one of the most influential storytellers in East Africa after walking away from the very industry that made him famous. That's unusual, and it raises an important question: what did he see that others didn't? To answer that, we need to go back to the early 2010s, when Tahidi High was one of the most popular television shows in Kenya. For many viewers, it wasn't just entertainment, it was part of everyday life. The characters became household names, and among them was Freddy, the role that turned Abel Mutua into a familiar face across the country. From the outside, it looked like the perfect success story. He had recognition, a growing fan base, and a place in one of Kenya's most successful television productions. But fame has a way of hiding uncomfortable truths. Throughout the entertainment industry, there has always been a difference between being visible and being valuable. Audiences see celebrities and assume success, but behind the scenes the economics often tell a different story. Actors become famous while networks build assets. Writers create stories while companies retain ownership. The people generating the value aren't always the ones controlling it. What made Abel Mutua's situation particularly interesting was that he wasn't only acting. He was also writing and contributing creatively behind the scenes. The deeper he became involved in the production process, the clearer the structure of the industry became. Content was created by talented individuals, but the long-term rewards flowed elsewhere. The system wasn't necessarily broken, it was simply designed to benefit institutions more than creators. At some point, Abel Mutua appears to have reached a conclusion that many creators never reach. Instead of asking how to become more successful within the existing system, he started questioning the system itself. If the ultimate goal was creative freedom, financial growth, and ownership, could those things ever truly be achieved inside traditional television? And if the answer was no, what came next? Around that same period, something significant was happening across the global media landscape. The internet was beginning to remove the barriers that had separated creators from audiences for decades. Platforms like YouTube allowed individuals to reach millions of people without requiring approval from broadcasters, studios, or media executives. Most traditional organizations saw these platforms as secondary distribution channels. A few creators saw them as the future. The evidence suggests Abel Mutua was one of those creators. Rather than treating digital platforms as a way to promote his work, he treated them as a way to build direct relationships with audiences. At first glance, the formula seemed incredibly simple. There were no elaborate television sets, no large production crews, and no complicated broadcast schedules. Instead, there was a storyteller sitting in front of a camera, sharing stories in a way that felt personal, familiar, and authentic. Yet that simplicity concealed something powerful. Abel wasn't merely creating content, he was creating trust. Every story strengthened the connection between creator and audience. People returned not because they were forced to, but because they genuinely wanted to hear what came next. Over time, viewers stopped feeling like an audience and started feeling like a community. That distinction turns out to be incredibly important. Most people assume his success was built on YouTube views, but views alone rarely create lasting influence. The real transformation happened when attention evolved into trust, and trust evolved into loyalty. Loyal audiences behave differently from casual viewers. They attend events, support projects, purchase tickets, recommend content to friends, and continue showing up long after the novelty has faded. This is where the business side of the story begins to emerge. While many creators focused exclusively on growing view counts, Abel Mutua was building something much more durable. The audience he gathered online became the foundation for live storytelling events, film projects, production ventures, and an entire ecosystem of creative work. Instead of relying on a broadcaster to connect him with viewers, he had established a direct relationship that he controlled himself. The implications of that shift were enormous. For the first time, the storyteller owned the distribution. He no longer needed to depend entirely on institutions to reach the people who valued his work. The audience wasn't being borrowed from someone else's platform, it was becoming part of a community built around a shared connection. Of course, digital success introduces its own challenges. The internet can create opportunities at remarkable speed, but it can also be unpredictable. Algorithms change, platforms evolve, then audience behavior shifts constantly. Many creators discover too late that attention is temporary. What seems dominant today can disappear tomorrow. That's why the smartest creators focus on building assets rather than chasing views. They transform audiences into communities, communities into brands, and brands into businesses capable of surviving changes in technology. Looking at Abel Mutua's journey through this lens reveals a pattern that extends far beyond entertainment. His success wasn't simply about storytelling. It was about ownership. For decades, East African media operated through gatekeepers. Networks controlled distribution, studios controlled opportunities, and creators adapted to the rules that already existed. The internet changed that equation by giving creators the ability to connect directly with audiences, and Abel Mutua became one of the clearest examples of what can happen when someone fully embraces that shift. Today, countless filmmakers, podcasters, writers, and digital entrepreneurs are following paths that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. They are building audiences without television networks, launching projects without major studios, and creating businesses around communities they own themselves. In many ways, Abel Mutua's story serves as a blueprint for that transformation. What makes his journey compelling isn't just the success he achieved. It's the question it forces us to ask about the future of media itself. If creators can build direct relationships with audiences, if they can control distribution, and if they can retain ownership of the value they create, then the balance of power begins to change. Millions of people know Abel Mutua as a storyteller, but his greatest contribution may be something larger than any individual story. By stepping outside the traditional system and proving that a creator could build an independent ecosystem around trust, community, and ownership, he helped demonstrate what the future of African media might look like. And if that future belongs to creators who own their audience relationships rather than rent them, then Abel Mutua wasn't simply adapting to change. He was helping lead it.